Welcome back, ballers. Get those brooms out. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for staying up. Did I just get a thumbs up in the chat? I just want to make sure you guys can hear me okay. All right. Welcome back, ballers, to a late night episode of Knowledge Pays. My camera is motion censored, so I might screw this up. But I pulled out the broom. And I should have been doing this the last 4 days because everybody on my Winnable and Patreon page has swept the board 3 out of the last 4 days to kick off the month of August. So I'm going to kick off by just saying congratulations to the winners. For anybody who took the notes, the insight, and my own personal leans on what I liked in tonight's games. It was another perfect night. So very exciting stuff. As I always try to do, I try to make these streams as short and sweet as possible, to the point, because this is dedicated to those that are interested in learning more about the way that I look at the world of sports betting. It rarely has to do with talent or matchups. Sometimes that is taken into account. However, there are a lot of other things that most people don't take into consideration when it comes to looking at these games, besides just the stats and the matchups and things like that. So we're going to jump right into it. I'm going to assume, we know what assuming does, that there's nothing in the chat that's telling me that you guys can't hear me. So we'll get started. Knowledge Pays, August 5th. Shout out to my dog, Cooper. He just turned 3 years old today. He's laying on the carpet right now. I was going to pick him up and show him to the audience, but he's sleeping. I don't want to disturb him on his birthday of all days. So anyways, the first game we're going to look at is the Astros versus the Miami Marlins. I will say this. This is a faulty mistake on my part. I did not actually post this pick. I had it set up. I had things going on throughout the day, and I realized that I never actually put it out. That said, everything else I put out hit 100%, so that's all good. But we're going to kick it off here. Why did I look at the Houston Astros today, August 5th, besides it being my dog's birthday? The dog Star, right? Houston Astros. What is Houston called? Space City. Why would I bring that up? Why am I looking at the Houston Astros on August 5th? If anybody in the chat knows the answer, please drop it in. Let me know. But I'm going to beat you to it, because today was Neil Armstrong's birthday. Perfect. So anytime I see, birthdays, national holidays, etc., even like National Space Day, things like that, anytime I look at that, I look at two teams. And this is the first one, the Houston Astros, because Houston is known as Space City. Okay, because they're the Astros, the Stars, right? So I was like, oh, okay. I mean, there's probably some good odds that Houston would win today on Neil Armstrong's birthday. And sure enough, they did. And once again, this actually did not drop on my Winnable or Patreon pages because it just slipped through my hands. But I had it all set up. This is everything that I had ready to go. I pointed out that with a win for the Astros also known as Space City, on Neil Armstrong's birthday, the Marlins would drop to 55 and 57 on the season, where the word moon equals 51 and 57, but focusing on the 57 right now, the word moon equals 57 in it forwards, simplest cipher, right? Moon equals 57. So the Marlins can get that 57th loss on Neil Armstrong's birthday, right? And moon landing also equals 55 in the Pythagorean cipher. So they could drop to 55 and 57, where moon equals 57 and moon landing equals 55 against Space City on Neil Armstrong's birthday. You see what I'm saying? I did point out here, I said, be careful though, because with a loss, the Astros could or would pick up their 51st loss of the season, where moon equals 51 in reverse. But when I looked at everything else, it just made too much sense for this one. So, hello, Joe. Good to see you. Good to see you. Thank you for joining. I appreciate it. So the next, let's see here. Let me get back to the slides. Next game we're going to look at, the White Sox versus the Seattle Mariners. Why would I look at the Seattle Mariners specifically? Bueller, anybody? On Neil Armstrong's birthday, why does the Seattle Mariners matter with everything I just presented about the Houston Astros? And everything else I'm going to share with you guys was shared on the Patreon. So that first one, I'm very upset with myself because I had everything ready to go to take the Astros. They did win the game, by the way. Joe says maritime law. I mean, that's a great guess, honestly. But I was mainly talking about that tonight. We're getting into later hours or early hours of August 6th, but August 5th was or is Neil Armstrong's birthday. Neil Armstrong, right? Who landed on the moon. But so why does Seattle matter? We talked about how Houston is Space City. But why does Seattle matter on this day? Because Seattle is home of what? When you think of Seattle, what do you think of? The Space Needle, perhaps? Right across the street from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. All about those needles, you know? So I looked at the Mariners, and in all fairness, the White Sox are terrible, and they're playing on the road. I have actually put out quite a few wins for the White Sox this year, as they're always underdogs. Latest one being when they won on the anniversary of the death of Michael Jordan's father, who always wanted him to play baseball. And then sure enough, he ends up playing for the White Sox. But keeping it moving, let's take a look. So White Sox, Seattle Mariners. Once again, this game was played on Neil Armstrong's birthday. And I just wanted to share some images here to show you how connected Seattle is to just anything space related, because they are known for the Space Needle. They even had a mascot. It might even still be around, where, like, look back in the day, this bottom right corner, somebody on stilts walking around as the Space Needle. I think that was their mascot at some point. So knowing that, when I looked at the game, what I shared with my subscribers is, in Seattle, home of the Space Needle, on Neil Armstrong's birthday, the Mariners could ritualistically win their 114th game of the season. So add up 60 plus 53. You see that they have 113 games under their belt, meaning this particular game was their 114th. Well, that's funny, because when you measure from Neil Armstrong's actual birthday back in 1930, and you measure it to tonight's game in 2025, it's exactly, you guys, not a day to spare, 1,114 months from his birthday. And in the world of numerology, that zero doesn't matter, does it? Because a zero doesn't count. So I was like, whoa, okay. So talk about the double layer alignment there. And also the Mariners, it would, if they won, sorry, this was also their 57th home game of the season. Home game, right? So their 114th game of the season, their 57th home game of the season. Moon equals 57. Simplest cipher. A is 1, B is 2, C is 3. So, and it's Neil Armstrong's freaking birthday. So that was pretty much all I needed there, especially considering that they're playing against the lowly White Sox. So not as much value, but at the end of the day, in the world of sports betting, you got to take what you can get, especially when you see alignments like this. Lano says, "Hey AJ, how's it going? Found you through Rambo and Coincidence Joey. I'm glad I did. My name is AJ too." I don't know what you mean by that last part. I'm glad I did. My name is AJ too. But hey, thank you, Lano. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Once again, this is all about, collaborating with people. This is obviously more of a solo, just recapping today's codes. So I appreciate that, Lano. Thank you. Next, we're going to look at the San Diego Padres versus the Diamondbacks. This one is not space related. But what I noticed is that Padres, right? When you use the base ciphers of Gematria, the two front ciphers, ordinal, A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, and you use reduction, where you break down every double-digit value into a single digit. For example, J, the 10th letter, 1 plus 0 equals 1. So that's how that cipher works. But notice how Padres equals 63 and 27. And I just said that's interesting because notice that the Padres, with a win, would pick up their 63rd win. Padres equals 63. And the Diamondbacks would stay on 27 home wins, right? So there's your 63-27 connection there. Next, we're going to look at Cardinals-Dodgers. This is another one where the Dodgers were heavy favorites. They typically are. The Dodgers can be tricky sometimes. But just notice here that for me, it was all about the 36s with this one, because Cardinals equals 36 in the Pythagorean cipher, just like Dodgers. And in the reverse Pythagorean cipher, Dodgers also equals 36. And tonight's game was played a span of exactly 36 days before California's founding date. And that's where tonight's game was being played. Right? So, in other words, the Cardinals, which equals 36, with a loss, or sorry, with a win, Dodgers equals 36 front and back. With a win against the Cardinals, which equals 36, they can get the win 36 days before the founding date of California. And tonight's game was in California. See what I'm saying? So there was that one. And in closing, consider this a free pick, I guess you could say. I'll have more notes on this later to my Winnable and Patreon subscribers, which I always appreciate. Just so you guys know, the links are in the description of this video. It's essentially $60 a month. However, if you break it down by day, we're talking about $2 a day for all of my picks. So keep that in mind. But today, August 6th, is the anniversary of the bombing of Hiroshima in Japan. And of course, you have Shohei Ohtani, one of the superstars of the MLB, who is Japanese, on the mound. So, of all days, right? I mean, Shohei doesn't pitch every night or every day. He's pitching tomorrow, though, or today, technically, in some areas, on August 6th, on the bombing anniversary of Hiroshima. Keep an eye on Shohei Ohtani, either on the mound or at bat, because he is a kind of a unicorn in the sense that most pitchers don't typically bat in the normal rotation, right? Sometimes they do bat, but Shohei is also a heck of a hitter, and he just so happens to be able to pitch too. So on top of that, notice that tomorrow's game or today's game, wherever you're watching this, the Dodgers can pick up that 37th win. Los Angeles equals 37, by the way. I didn't put that in the slide. But bombing equals 37. So does Shohei. And even in the Satanic cipher, bombing equals 307. And what did I say earlier about numerology? With those rules, 0 doesn't matter. So you can just slash out the 0. And you have another 37. So on the anniversary of the bombing of Hiroshima, the Dodgers can pick up the 37th win, where Los Angeles equals 37, Shohei equals 37, bombing equals 37, and bombing equals 307 in the Satanic cipher. I looked at the value of the Dodgers. They're about minus 200. So that would mean you would essentially win half of whatever you bet. But looks solid. I mean, there's a couple things with the Cardinals I saw that are a little concerning, but when you take into account things even outside of the numbers, like I said, it's the anniversary of the bombing of Hiroshima, right? 1 out of 365 days in a year, 1 out of 162 games in a season. And now we have a superstar, a Japanese superstar, Shohei, on the mound. So take a look at him as far as pitching props goes, and as well as what he could do in the batter's box. And I say that because notice too that the Dodgers Ohtani equals 67. A is 1, B is 2, C is 3. Add that up with Ohtani, you get 67. And the Dodgers could pick up their 67th win on the season on the anniversary of the bombing of Hiroshima. And in closing, you guys, this is the last slide I have for you. Notice that Shohei Ohtani is sitting on 92 home runs with the Dodgers in his career. That's in just the regular season, by the way. So we're still in the regular season. So if he were to actually hit a bomb, think about that, you guys. For those that don't know baseball, a home run is known as a bomb, right? So he could get his 93rd bomb for the Dodgers in his career in the regular season on the anniversary of the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan, where Japan equals 93 in the reverse cipher. So A is 26, back to Z is 1. That's how you get the number of 93. So we're just under that 20-minute mark. That's how I like to leave these streams. Joe, good to see you. Lano, thank you for the shout out. I really appreciate it. So without further ado, I'm just going to close out by saying thank you guys all for joining. Please make sure to hit that like and the subscribe and the share where you guys see fit. I mean, if you guys have a Dodgers fan out there, if you guys have a Padres fan out there, etc. I mean, it doesn't have to be every game, but maybe there's something out there that resonated with you and something that you think could help open the eyes of other people that don't necessarily see what we see. So I really appreciate all of you very, very much. Love, love, love always. And I will see you guys again on the next one. Until next time, take care of yourself. Take care of yourselves, ballers. Peace.